So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to do something a little bit unusual. And I may have been quoted as saying that before, sometime in the past. But boy, do I mean it. Because today, you're in for a treat. We're going to actually go in to a live, real-time journey. And we're going to pull some amazing information from the ether, and we're going to bring it into this world, into this dimension. So what you're looking at right now are the three worlds, and we'll start with that. Again, none of this has been rehearsed. I had only the faintest idea of what I wanted to do in this video, and I'm just doing it. But what I'm being called to do is to have an organic journey. I try to do some meditating every day. I don't always get around to it, but I try. And I definitely pray every day, and I honor the ancestors. That much I can do. But the meditating, it's kind of hit or miss. I'm trying not to put any pressure on myself and to expect anything. And this is all going to connect into what we're going to talk about here in a second. I can already sense it coming together. But this is purely organic. This is all happening in real time. None of this has been rehearsed. Now, I didn't want to put added pressure on myself. I wasn't sure how I was going to record this exactly. So I'm just recording off of OBS. It's capturing a picture on my screen right now. But I don't want to be on the camera because I want to focus 100%. There's nothing really for you to look at anyway. So I would invite you now, as we get started, to find a comfortable place to relax and to sit down, or if laying down's your thing, that's fine. You do you. You do what works best for you, and that's the whole point of this. That's the whole concept of what I wanted to do with this video, which is essentially to harmonize, to crystallize, if you will, the three worlds. And the three worlds is another way of saying the mental, the physical, and the spiritual. Forgive my stomach. I've got a bit of a hunger here. That's fine. Better to meditate and journey on an empty stomach with a little bit of grumbling than on a full stomach where you're digesting. Yeah, it's not a good idea. Just like doing yoga or any exercise really is a bad idea on a full stomach. So anyway, enough about my stomach. What we're going to do here today is we're going to start dispelling a lot of the negative baggage that we've been carrying around. And when I say we, I'm talking about myself and the listener. I'm included in everything I'm sharing with you. I'm not saying anything to you that I wouldn't say to myself. It's a communication between myself and the world, and as being a part of the world, you know, I am of this world. I'm not in it, or I'm not on it. I'm of this world, and the world is me. And the same applies to you. So anything you hear me say about myself, apply that to yourself. And anything you hear me say in an outwardly direction where it sounds like I'm talking to you, apply that to me as well. So as we get started, try to find a comfortable spot. Again, no rules here. No rules. I mean that. You do things the way that you want to do them. I'm only here to guide you, to be a conduit for this. I'm a bridge between the spiritual right now and you and your experience. So find the most comfortable place that you can for you right now. If that's laying down, then lay down. If that's sitting down and you're afraid you might fall asleep, which is entirely possible, but maybe that's what you need, right? See, we're not resisting anything here. Ever. That's the whole concept of this video. That's the whole concept of this type of journeying and meditation that I do. And trust me when I say, for years, I struggled with the idea of meditation because, first of all, I can't always visualize things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes my mind wanders, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I'm able to concentrate and meditate for an hour, 2 hours sometimes, but not every time. But I'm learning to be gentle. I'm learning to be understanding and self-compassionate. Not be hard on myself, not curse myself when I make a perceived mistake. Instead, I treat myself as if I was talking to a brother, to a dear friend, to a partner. It's no different. So as we get going here, you can start taking deep breaths. Try to make your breaths as cyclical as possible. You can close your eyes if you'd like to. If you're afraid that you might fall asleep, you can do a soft gaze, which helps for some people. Others actually, they like to have their eyes slightly open because it is more comfortable for them, because they can still kind of see what's going on around them. So do what makes sense for you, right? I'm going to keep saying this because I want you to get the idea of this is your meditation. This is your journey. It's not mine. I'm helping you get your meditation, but it's yours. It's your experience. It's your life, and it's your path. But all of our paths are intertwined. So we'll start by, first of all, you can stand up when you do this if you'd like, but I'm just going to visualize it because I'm nice and comfortable in my chair and I'm already starting to relax. You can gather any items of power that might help you, any items of protection. We're not going to be doing anything that would get you into any type of danger, but if you feel like you want something like a rock for grounding, that's fine. Again, do what you need to do. Basically, your goal right now is to get relaxed and to just start listening to my voice. Calm down. Don't think of anything else. Don't worry about whatever else is bothering you that you were thinking about before this, or what you're going to do after this is done. Just be present right now and just settle into your seat or wherever you're laying down and just start taking in those breaths. And try to make your breath cyclical, but also circular. Imagine an infinity symbol, but the infinity symbol at one end, because an infinity symbol is essentially an 8 on its side, right? Take that infinity symbol on its side and take one of the ends and press that end up against your chest, right in the center of your chest, just to the right of where your heart might be. One end of the 8, and I realize this is a two-dimensional object, but just do your best to visualize it. If you want to visualize it as a three-dimensional object and a three-dimensional 8 on its side, that's fine too. It's all fine. You're doing great. Keep doing it. So grab that 8, press the bottom of it or the top, they're both the same. Press it against your chest gently and just rest it there. Okay? This is not even the visualization now. This is just us getting ready. But see how well you're doing already? You see how easy that was to visualize? Because it's effortless, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to always make sure that we're reverting back to being effortless with our approach. As soon as you're trying, you're already trying too hard. There should be a level of discipline, yes, but not in a forceful way, in the same sense that you would get if you were doing something that you loved, that you were passionate about. There's a great sense of discipline with that. So as the 8 or infinity symbol rests on your chest, imagine at the other end that a sort of a mixture between a light and a wind begins to develop. It's almost like if a light was made out of a gas instead of photons, if it was a gaseous substance but it emitted light, imagine that sort of like neon, right? A neon light. A little bit of neon light starts to form in the end of the 8 that's furthest away from your chest on the other side. And every time you breathe in, it comes down the 8 and it does a a loop-de-loop, and it does the symbol of the infinity. It goes away from your chest, goes down, comes back up, comes back towards your chest, goes down, comes back up, goes away from your chest, goes down, comes up, comes towards your chest, goes down. You see it looping over and over? If you were looking at this, if you're looking at yourself from the side perspective, you would see that it's following the infinity symbol. The light is going from left to right, up to down, following it like a racetrack. Like those race cars we used to play with when we were kids, with the remote control and the track. So imagine that light zipping around this figure 8 track, and we're going to call this, all credit to a gentleman, and I can't remember his last name, but Daryl. If you happen to be listening, if there's some weird coincidence there and you're listening to this, thank you, brother, for teaching me this. But basically he calls it fold in and fold out. And for some reason, like, it's not like we talked about it for very long. This was an exchange of, it's not even as if we've had, long conversations about this. This was an exchange over 2, maybe 3 Telegram messages. So I just knew right away what he meant by that. Fold in and fold out. It's brilliant. Think about it. You're folding in, the light comes towards you, pausing for a brief moment, and then you're folding out. This is what you're going to do with your breath. You're going to make your breath as smooth as you can. And while you're doing this, not only is this very, very good for your body, it's good for your lungs, it's good for your brain, it oxygenates your blood, it's all good. While you're doing this, it gives you something to focus on. In meditation and journeying, this is called an anchor. And if you imagine yourself as being a boat out at sea, an anchor is a very important part of your boat, because without the anchor you could just drift away. You could get off course when you're not paying attention. When you're sleeping, your boat could drift into rocks or who knows what. So an anchor allows you to remain somewhat grounded. And that's not to say that you should always be grounded when you're meditating, or if you're in a trance, or whatever it is that you happen to be doing that's in this sort of same vein. You can definitely let your mind go, and this is one of the things that we're going to practice now. So as I prepare us for this journey, I want you to keep folding in and folding out. Folding in, light comes towards you. Folding out, exhale, the light goes away. But the light never gets too far because it just zips back around, comes back towards you. So just keep focusing now. For some people, they like a box pattern of breathing, which is basically breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, breathing out for 4 seconds, pausing for 4 seconds, and then repeating. This is called box breathing because it's the same on all sides, and there's four basic steps to it. That works fine for some people. I would say that there are advantages to using that technique in certain circumstances. But for me, I like to use a longer exhale with a slightly shorter inhale and a shorter holding of the breath. So my breath would be something like this. It would be in for 7 seconds, holding for 2 seconds, and then exhaling for 8 seconds, very slowly. Pausing for 2 seconds at the bottom of the breath, repeating. No matter what technique you use for breathing, you're going to make a really conscious effort to make it a fluid motion. They call this make an effort to have a complete breath. And you might be wondering now, how far are we in? We're almost 20 minutes in, and we have barely gotten started. That's okay. We're leading up to it. And every time we do this going forward in the series, it's going to get easier and easier and easier. And we'll be able to access this state of mind that we're about to reach very, very quickly, in less than 5 seconds if you want to. Now, as you breathe, as you fold in, fold out, we're going to also visualize and acknowledge the cardinal directions. The directions are important. The directions are our intuition, our sense of intuition, our instinct, our guidance, our orientation. It's our identity. So when we do elemental meditation or elemental visualizations or elemental magic, we're really acknowledging the powers of the forces of nature, which are the same powers and forces that are within ourselves, because again, we're the same as nature. Nature is not something else. Nature is us, and we are nature. Many people have forgotten that they are nature. They're more than just a part of it. It's fine if you can get to a place where you're a part of nature. I think that's a good first step in the right direction, but ultimately you'll realize if you keep going back there in your mind and you live in a state of abundance, you see that the universe is extremely abundant, extremely graceful, extremely benevolent, and it really comes down to the way you live your life. If you live your life in a way that is devoid of meaning and devoid of value and integrity and morals, ethics, then of course the same is going to come back to you. So if you live in a world that's abundant and rich and loving and caring, well, that's also going to come back. It's your experience. This is your experience. This is your life. Nobody else's. So as you're breathing, you're folding in, you're folding out, you're sinking down deeper and deeper into a state of relaxation. You're not trying. That's the big key here I want you to take away from all this, is you don't have to try to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You just have to sit or lie down and just let go. Start to let go of all of the different stresses and obligations you're putting on yourself, or maybe others are putting on you. Start to let go of any need to do anything, to consume anything, to be something. Whatever you need to be right now, you're already it. You don't need to do anything. Just need to sit there. You just need to be. If you can hear my voice, you're able to be. Keep breathing. Keep folding in. Keep folding out. We're going to take some time to acknowledge the cardinal direction of the east, the element of air, the law of the birds. This is a place of great, great, great mental potential. This is a place of constant flux. It's a place of elevation, of lightness, of atmosphere. The air elementals are those that are a very active and energetic spirit. They're one of living for today. It's the force that moves the leaf, that allows it to fly in the sky. Force is part of us, like they all are. All of these elementals are part of us, and we are part of them. So as we drift deeper and deeper into a more profound sense of relaxation, we acknowledge now the part of ourselves that is the fire, element of heat and warmth and combustion and pure light, visible light, invisible light, radiation. Fire is also in a state of constant flux. Never, ever does a flame remain the same. It's always changing. It's like the ripples on the water. Always in motion, always changing its character, and always alchemizing one thing into another. Fire is the passion. Fire is the primordial spirit of the universe, the cleansing element, and the forge, and the tempering of the sword, and the volcano. We turn our attention now to the west, from the south to the west. And now in the west, we see the setting sun in front of us, and behind us we see the rising sun, the great cycle from dark to light, and light to dark. The element of water in the west, the element most abundant on our planet, but yet not that abundant in the state of our water, or the states rather of our water on this planet is incredible. It can be in many different states at the same time. It's an element that gets in every crack. It will get into every place. And it's one of great wearing over time. The gentle pounding of the wave repeatedly against the rock makes a smooth surface. It's harnessing the power of its neighbors. And it can be a force for creation, a great divine feminine force. It can also be a force of great destruction. But that's the catch with water, is that its fabulous water crystals come with a cost. They at once keep you alive, but they at the same time will oxidize you, oxidize everything around. Turn to the north. The great earth, great white, the land of stability, of the elk herds, a land of mountain and grounding like no other. Place of foundation. It's a place of immovable rock. It's a place of source minerals. It's where it all began. And it's a collection of all things. Earth, as all the other elements, is in a state of flux, but one that is very slow. It's not in a hurry. The earth element will take its time. It works with time. It dances with time. The other elements, in comparison, are in a hurry, but earth is content to just let the mountains erode and let time take its course. And as we wrap up our elemental introduction here, we'll turn back to the east of the rising sun, and we'll give thanks to the cardinal directions. But before we close this portion of our journey, we're going to also acknowledge the other directions that are often forgotten, which is the above, the below, and the within. Because these directions, while may not necessarily be cardinal directions, they are still important directions nonetheless. Above, so below. This is saying that no matter what direction you go, eventually you'll find your way back to where you started. And that's the great dance of life and existence on this planet and most likely beyond. We'll finish by acknowledging the space, also the space within us, the space around us, the space that we take up in this universe, this wonderful existence. And we'll remember to balance, as with all things, we'll balance our right to set our foot down and claim our place in this universe, but at the same time knowing full well and embracing the fact that it's temporary. This is my space, but only for now. Tomorrow it will be someone else's. So now you're more than welcome to continue to take deep breaths and relax. Hopefully that visualization, that introductory elemental practice, which I often do, is helpful for you. But you should now be in a place of deep relaxation, maybe even a little energized, but in a good way. So what we're going to do now is affirmation, same page. For one is something that I said, is that you don't have to do anything. Your only job is to let go of any expectations you might be holding on to of how things are supposed to be, of how they're supposed to go, in and out. This is something that was a little confusing to me when I first started journeying, is depending on who you do this with, you may come in and out of the journey, you may stay in the journey for the whole time, which is quite daunting for someone that's just getting started. But with this approach, the beauty of it is it doesn't matter. Whatever you want to happen is what's going to happen, and that's fine. There's no right or wrong way to do this. And pardon my French, but if you think this is bullshit, then you would have already turned it off. So you're still here because you know that there's value to this, and you understand, like I was saying before, that I'm not doing this for me. I'm channeling this for you. And as a result, I may benefit, and that's fine and dandy. But I'm doing this because it's what I need to do at this time. Now, we're going to go a bit further with this idea, with this concept of letting go. I want you to now indulge me in a thought experiment. Now, this thought experiment basically is we're going to use the concept of letting go, but we're going to go way beyond that. Letting go of not just the typical things, not just the ego, which is, okay, there's some merit in that. There's definitely some value in letting go and practicing to let go of the ego. Not completely. I don't think that's realistic to ever think you're going to kill your own ego. That would be killing a part of yourself, and a part that I would argue you sometimes need. It's an important thing. It's just it gets out of control, and you have to keep it in its place. Like a lot of things, like most parts of your personality. If they get out of control, not good. So, but we're not going to do any of this in a forceful way. None of it. Nothing. If ever you feel like, I'm not getting it, it's not working for me, I promise you, the reason why is because you're not letting go. You're still trying to control it to a certain degree. And the only reason I can say this is because I've been there. I still go through it sometimes. I'm not impervious to it. I think it's a normal thing. I think it's a normal thing. We have to get good at surfing the waves of life. Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down, sometimes you're upside down, sometimes you're in the water, sometimes you're cold, sometimes you're not sure if you're going to make it, and sometimes you're riding high. Sometimes you're the king of the world or the queen of the world, right? But that's the joy of this life. That's the joy of the experience that you've embarked upon. It's exactly that. It's exactly what it needs to be. So when you stop trying to control it and you just let it happen, things start to happen on their own without your involvement, and your controlling need to want to have things, reality, conform to your expectations or to your standards or whatever, is actually what's holding you back. Isn't that ironic? Isn't that crazy? That the more, it's like quicksand, the more you struggle, the faster you're going to sink. It doesn't work that way. These things happen by letting go. Do you think that these Buddhist monks who are sitting there for, I don't know, 12 hours a day in the Buddhist temples, and they're able to they just have that blissful look on their face, and they're able to just sit there, no need for water or food or anything, just perfectly content to just sit there? Does it look like they're struggling to do that? Of course not, right? They wouldn't be doing it if they didn't find something amazing that they've tapped into. But they're only able to get there because of their keen ability to let go. That's my point with all this. They're masters of letting go. They're masters of being. Not thinking about being, not thinking about being, but just being. And this is where the confusion is for a lot of people. It's not pushing out your thoughts. It's not holding on to your thoughts or focusing on your thoughts, but it's also not ignoring them or trying to prevent them somehow, which you can't. It's not fighting against them. Some people have this misconception that meditating involves clearing your mind completely of any thought. Even in sensory deprivation, your brain goes into overdrive to create them, all on its own. This is what I'm saying. And here's the key, folks. If anybody's still tuned in at this point, you're about to get an amazing insight that has helped me so much in my life. And I've only just come upon it recently. You ever try and read a book and you're sitting there reading the book and you're like, I just can't concentrate right now. I can't process the words. I keep getting distracted. My mind's wandering. What's happening in that moment? Where's your mind going? You know where it's going? It's going into the journey and meditation state. It's trying to tell you that you have a great need to visit this place internally. It's basically saying, hey, why are you trying to read right now when we should be meditating? It's your brain telling you that it's a good time to meditate. Because, why do I know this? Because when this happens to you, what happens? Like, think about it. Your mind goes somewhere else. Where's it going? Oh, it's going to a memory that I had from something that happened the other day or a year ago or when I was a kid, or something I read in the book triggered a thought, and I followed that thought inadvertently or subconsciously, and it led me down a memory pathway, and then I'm focusing on that instead of the words on the page, right? That's what happens to me anyway. And if that sounds familiar to you, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But that's proof to you, if you experience that as I do, that's proof to you that you're able to meditate. You're able to visualize just fine because your brain can do it when you let go, when you're not trying to do it. When you just stop trying to do something and you just do it, it's like the Matrix. Stop trying to hit me and hit me. That's the idea here, is we're not going to try to do anything. It's a very Taoist way of looking at it. We're going to stop trying in order to start generating some results. Because in all likelihood, most of the time, the mind already knows what to do. It's well accustomed to dealing with things that are far more fraught with danger and consequences than what we're used to in our cushy modern lifestyle. Yes, we have a lot of stress in our life, but the same amounts and types of stress and quality of stress that we had 100 years ago, or 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago? I don't think so. I think life was a lot more difficult in many ways back then. So the mind knows what to do. The mind is also connected to the DNA, which has, and that's not even mentioning the spirit part of all this, but the DNA has the memory. The water within us has the memory as well. It's all connected. But this whole thing that we've been going through now for probably pushing an hour now, 42 minutes almost, okay? This has all happened in the same exact way that you'll make amazing journeys happen, or that you'll have amazing reading sessions because you're actually able to concentrate, because you understand what's happening to your brain when you can't read. I'll be sitting there, and I hate to get a little too visual here on this, but I do a lot of reading on the toilet, which I'm sure a lot of people do. Something I picked up from my old man. He used to read all kinds of stuff. He'd put away books just sitting on the can, and I kind of do the same thing. Not really good for your legs. Maybe causes blood clots. I don't know. Probably not good for you to sit on the bowl for that long. And sometimes after I'm done my business, I'll sit there for another 10-15 minutes even. But I'm able to read, a few pages, and it's not uncommon to read a half a chapter or something. Just a little bit every day, and the next thing you know, after a month or two, you've read a whole book just sitting on the toilet. But what a funny thing happens is, if I'm in a place that day where I'm just not able to process the words, I just can't. I'll read a sentence or two, and my mind will start to wander, and I'll bring it back, and then I'll read another few sentences, and my brain will start to wander. It's a sign. It's a sign from my brain to say, hey dude, don't waste your time reading right now. Read tomorrow. Put the book down. Okay, read, or maybe finish that page as best you can. Put it down, because otherwise you're not going to retain any of that information anyway. It's not going to be good reading. It's not going to be effective reading anyway. So just put it down and go do some meditating. Take 10-15 minutes that you would have done reading the book, and just go meditate and see what you can do. Or see what you can not do. Because what I noticed is, when this happens to me, it's like, boom, I'm there. Whether it's a memory, whether it's something, a thought, whether I'm imagining myself somewhere doing something, or whether it's something I've actually done, doesn't really matter. It kind of takes me to the same place. Where is that? Where are we going when this happens? It's exciting for me to even think about it right now and explain it to you. Because what's happening there? And you could diminish it, and you could reduce it and say, oh, well, you're just having a thought. It's just a memory, dude. Like, why are you tripping out? But what's happening there? You're almost going somewhere. Maybe not physically, but mentally, spiritually perhaps. You're going somewhere. You're gone. You're somewhere else, okay? I'm in that memory when it happens. Like, I'm there. It's visual. It's like there in front of me, right? It's not like, oh, did I see that out of the corner of my eye? Like, did I see that, or did I not just see that? This is, oh, I see it. And I just saw it, right? Another scary time, and I'll come back to the toilet analogy. I know you're just craving for me to come back to this, right? But another time when this happens is, maybe this is a better example, is when you're on the road. And it's kind of scary. It freaks me out sometimes, because when you're on the road, especially highways that are very repetitive and monotonous, you end up drifting, right? But somehow, probably because your brain knows, hey, don't completely turn off, because you'll crash and die and kill yourself and everybody in this vehicle. But somehow you continue driving, and you don't crash. But your mind is somewhere else. Like, I'll have such vivid visuals, and like, they're almost more than thoughts, and they're more than memories, because they're so vivid. You're there. You know what I mean? I don't mean to overemphasize this, but it's just so profound. It's so deep. Like, you're gone, but yet somehow your body is like all by itself on autopilot driving. And I remember seeing a documentary, it might have been a portion of a documentary on this concept of autopilot. And it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. I don't know if it's reptilian brain or what, or monkey mind or whatever they call it, but it's kind of the same idea. Your mind has a mind of its own, and it's, call it your subconscious, call it whatever. That's what we're tapping into when we're having a profound, a deep meditation or a journey. We're tapping into that space. So if you're able to do it in a distracted sort of way, like what happens to me, then you're able to do it in other contexts too. There's no reason why you should believe otherwise. If you're able to do it accidentally in that setting, then you're able to do it accidentally in another setting. You just have to sort of recreate that same environment and that same desire to just let go in maybe a more comfortable and relaxed environment. Let me give you one more example, and then we'll kind of start to wrap this up, and we'll do one more thing. So another time when you can apply this is when you're trying to fall asleep. But see what I just said? That doesn't make any sense, what I just said. Trying to fall asleep. You can't try to fall asleep. You can promote an environment or a situation or circumstances where you might be more conducive to falling asleep, but can you really make yourself fall asleep? I know some people can, and that's great if you can, but I can't, and I know a lot of people can't. You can't just force yourself to just fall asleep whenever you feel like it. That seems kind of dangerous, because if you make that choice at the wrong time, again, you could be hurting yourself or others around you. So the brain is obviously a well-evolved machine, and it knows what to do. So you ever notice, and this could just be me, but I don't think it is, you ever notice when you are successful at helping yourself to sleep, it's usually when you stop trying to do it. When you just let your mind wander, and then all of a sudden you start creating these wild fantasies and scenarios in your head and little stories, and next thing you know, whoop, I'm falling asleep. Or you have one of those things where you just like jerk yourself awake again because you're about to, there's a term for that, I forget what it is, but neither here nor there, I guess. But one of two things usually happens is you'll bounce yourself awake again because you almost fell asleep and you had a nod, or you'll just go to sleep and you'll just lean into it. And that's what it is what I've noticed is that when I am able to do that, I lean into it completely. It's almost like you forget every night how to fall asleep. And then when you remember, you're like, oh yeah, right, I forgot about that. I forgot that's how you do it. And then you just go into it, right? But every morning when you wake up, you have your whole day, and then by the time you go to fall back asleep again, you've almost forgotten how to do it. But never completely, because you always remember, unless you have sleep problems, which I think happens to everybody, which meditation and journeying can definitely help with that. But that's kind of something else. So you see how in all three of those scenarios, it was a matter of letting go, of not trying, stop trying to try, and stop trying not to try, right? Just don't do anything. And just let things happen. Let things happen on their own. Whether it's falling asleep, whether it's reading a book, whether it's a visualization, whether it's a meditation, just let it happen. And let's do that now, okay? Now find your comfortable place once again. We have about 10 minutes left in this thing. I'm going to keep it raw the way it is, so you're going to have all the little mistakes in there. Just me being authentic and organic. Hopefully I didn't say anything too rude or made any funny noises. So get back comfortable in your spot, sitting, laying, doesn't matter. Close your eyes or do a soft gaze. Start taking some deep breaths. You're going to be circular with your breath. Remember, whether you're doing the 7-8, 7-2, 7-8, 7-2-7-2-8, or you're doing 4-4, 4-4, doesn't matter. Point is that you breathe in, you pause for a moment, and you breathe out. That's a complete breath. When you make it circular and cyclical, it ends up being a very complete breath. Very fluid in motion and very easy, and your body starts to do it on its own. You don't have to think about it. But if you want to think about it, it can be an anchor for you. A breath can be an anchor. Just follow the breath. Works for a lot of people. Let's do that now. Just follow your in. What's nice is when you let go of your breath and you do it in a long, drawn out way. Excuse me. You end up absorbing a lot more oxygen that way because the air stays in your lungs for longer. And you don't have to hold your breath, which is hard for some people to do. If you can hold your breath for a few seconds, up to 5 seconds, 10 seconds even, that's great. You'll absorb a lot of oxygen. But you can also do it by just exhaling slowly. And for me, I prefer to do it that way. So again, let's just focus on the breath. And you're just, with every exhale, you're just letting go more. You don't have to try to do anything. It's all happening by itself. Want to see amazing things? You do it. You can do it right now. Just let it come. What do you see? Breathing, though. Don't forget to keep doing your deep breathing, your cyclical breathing. For anybody who's having trouble visualizing anything, okay? If you're not seeing anything, and quite honestly with you, I'm not seeing anything right now either. Here's a surefire way to see something, and it works every time. Imagine in front of you that there's a TV set, one of those good old-fashioned tube TVs on 4 legs, okay? The big old floor model. Some you'd see in the 80s that kids would gather around and play Nintendo with. To this TV, there's a matching remote. And you pick up the remote, you go and sit down on the couch, extend your arm, you reach out, you go point the remote at the TV, you hit the big red button on the end at the top right, and the TV springs to life with a flash. Big white flash comes on the screen. What's the first thing that you see on that TV screen? Don't think about it. Just go with it. What's the very first thing that pops up on that TV screen? You see it? That, my friend, it will say a lot about your state of mind. It'll say a lot. That simple exercise, it will say a lot of things. If you start to study it, what you saw, whether you saw something or not, how you saw it, the shape of the TV, the qualities of the experience. That simple exercise is quite revealing. And every time I do it, I have a different experience. So normally I wouldn't share my own personal experiences, but just to give you an idea, we were only doing this, folks, for 5 minutes now. You can open your eyes if you still have your eyes closed. Keep your deep breathing going. Keep your sense of relaxation with you. But if you want to open your eyes now, if you haven't already, for me, it was a clown. I don't like clowns. I'm not afraid of. It was almost like the It clown. What's his name? Pennywise. But with an actual nice expression to him, which is a little terrifying in and of itself, because he's supposed to be intimidating. He's supposed to be scary, right? But to him have a normal look on his face, normal expression, with a normal smile, with normal teeth, but just with the makeup on, it's a little unnerving. And I think for me, right, and your experience is obviously going to be very different. If you saw a clown too, that's freaky, right? But for me, it's like that's what it is. It's pushing me out of my comfort zone to have a somewhat of an unnerving experience. Why? Well, that's up to me to do my research and to do my thinking and to do more journeying and more meditation and more mindfulness and more deep thoughts and dreaming and analysis, but not crazy amounts, but just healthy amounts of analysis to determine what this all means. I can already tell you what it means because I'm quite good at this now. I've practiced it a lot. It's pushing me to step out of my comfort zone. You're in it's like my subconscious or my soul is speaking to me, or God is speaking to me, however you want to look at it. It's pretty much saying the same thing. That, Matt, you're doing great and everything, but I want you to start taking some steps outside of your comfort zone. What do I mean by that? Well, what's the expression? Do something every day that scares you. Do something every day that will motivate you to reach ever greater heights and to not limit yourself in any way. Because, as we all know, fear is a very motivating emotion. It can be motivating in one way or the other, right? It can actually be a positive thing if you allow it to be. If you allow fear to do its job, fear can also be used against you. And it can also be used against yourself. So that's something to think about. So for me, it's a reminder to not get too comfortable, not get too complacent. And you're probably thinking, where did you get all that from a clown? But it makes sense for me. What's going to make sense for you? That's where you're going to find your answers. That's where you're going to find your powers of divination. And if you don't want to predict the future, then don't. Predict the now. Because obviously you're here because you're seeking answers. And my friend, if you got to the end of this thing, and we're going to wrap it up now, if you got to the end of this thing, first of all, I give you much, much, much gratitude. Thank you for humoring me, because you don't know me. You don't know what I'm capable of. You don't know if I actually have, so to speak, quote unquote, credentials, right? If I'm trained for this or what. And quite honestly, I'm just a man. I'm just a man like you, or like a woman. All men and women essentially at their core are the same. So that's what gives me my authority. That's what gives me my edge. That's what gives me my confidence in giving you advice. Even though I'm not directly giving you advice, I'm helping you to help yourself. And that's nature's way. The healing happens from within, right? While I may consider myself at times to be a healer, I'm simply a man who heals. I'm simply a man who allows others to heal themselves, who helps people to heal themselves, or who guides them. That's all. Just a conduit. I'm a conduit for something much greater than myself, because it's that whole sum of its parts thing. Much, much greater. So you can be part of that too. I spent many a year doubting myself and telling myself that I wasn't what I, in my heart of hearts, knew that I was deep down, and what my soul was telling me that I was. The divine aspect of me. When you stop denying that part of yourself, it's amazing what will happen. It's amazing. So I'm going to end it there. I sincerely hope you got something out of this, that you benefited from it. But again, part of this was for myself. It always is. It's, I think, an enlightened self-interest. A friend of mine has helped me to understand that. And an enlightened self-interest is never a bad thing, as long as it's done with, again, with the powers of fire, the powers of all the elements to temper that and to not let it get out of control. Just like we were talking about with the ego. It's normal to have that. It's normal to have that drive, that passion, right? But remember that all things have two faces, that stubbornness can be a negative emotion, but it can also be seen as determination and vigilance. So it's all in the way you look at it. A lot of it is perspective. And in all things, we're going to do what we can to operate from a place always, always, always of love and compassion, and kindness for those around us and for ourselves. And with that, my friends, I will bid you farewell. Take care, be well, and if you like this, I'll invite you to tune in for the next one. If you have any ideas or suggestions or recommendations for other future sessions, if you need some advice, if you'd like some healing, remember that all of my stuff is completely non-profit. I don't make a dime off of this. I'm just looking to do what I can to make a name for myself as a healer in the world and help as many people as I can. So if this did help you, then of course you can support me in a number of different ways. But I'm not looking for any monetary donations. Of course, you're welcome to send them if that's the way that you want to help. But I want your support by spreading this message, by doing the same and paying it forward to others that are in need, because you're better now. Okay? I'm better now, having gone through that. You're better now. So do what you can now to make somebody else's life better. That's all that I ask. And keep coming back, and we'll keep doing this if you liked it. I look forward to hearing your feedback. Let me know if this was too long, if you want to go even more. I know that we didn't do a lot of any pretty serious meditations or journeying that time, just kind of like some surface level visualizations and breathing exercises, but this was kind of an introductory session. Next time we're going to go deeper. We're going to start looking at the other realms, as you see on your screen here. We're going to look at the above and the below. Right now we're kind of just sticking to the middle world. But we're going to definitely travel all around and visit many, many different islands in the sky and below. And we're going to have fun. That's the main principle here, is that we have to have fun. We have to enjoy it, because if we don't, we're not going to want to do it, right? It's just like exercise. If you don't have fun, then you're not going to want to do it. You're not going to want to practice, and you're not going to want to keep coming back to it. It has to be a joy, guys, for real. Everything that you do when it comes to spiritual practices and disciplines, whether it's martial arts, sports, or actual, prayer and meditation, it has to be done with a level of seriousness, but also lightness, with a balance, like with all things. So there it is. There's my time. There is the first step. I'm happy with the way it went. I am very thankful that even one other man or woman made it to the end, so good for you. You don't have the attention span of a fly. I'm impressed. And I'm impressed that you were able to tolerate my voice for this long. And I know it got a little raspy there at times. I was starting to lose my voice. I'm not used to talking this much. I'm an introvert. But anyway, thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it, or listening rather, and I hope to see you again. Take care, my friend.